And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. I'm Aidan, and welcome to the Lore Lodge. So, today on the Lore Lodge, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite biblical concepts, the Nephilim. And when we talk about Nephilim, it's important to recognize that this is the Bible, and there are a lot of different interpretations, there's a lot of different possibilities, but we're going to go with what I think they were writing about thousands of years ago. And one of the common arguments in this as to why the Nephilim aren't referenced more than, I think it's literally twice, in the entire Bible, is that Moses, supposedly, in his infinite wisdom of the time, believed that, hey, Nephilim are a common thing, we don't have to talk about it that often, people are going to know what I'm talking about here. So he only writes the word twice, assuming it was Moses who wrote it. But he only writes the word twice, and that's in Genesis 6 and in Numbers 13. And the passage from Genesis 6 I read off in our first video for the Lore Lodge, well, our second video for the Lore Lodge. But I'm going to read that one again for you. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children unto them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So the term that is used in the Hebrew is Nephilim, which gets translated to giants. But Nephilim, the term, means those who fall, or those who fell. And some people, some biblical scholars, interpret that as those who fall upon others, as in to conquer, as in violent tribes. But there's another possibility. Nephilim could mean those who fell in a very literal sense, as in fell from heaven, the angels who God cast out alongside with Lucifer. And the next time they're referenced, the only other time that they're referenced to my understanding, is in Numbers 13. And it's specifically the end of Numbers 13, where we have, And they brought up an evil report of the land to which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, The land, through which we have gone to search it, is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. And I just want to pinpoint a little bit there. The land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. It's possible that this was just the ancient Jews describing a race of very large, very violent men, but this is not a description we get anywhere else in the Bible. When we get descriptions of giants elsewhere in the Bible, they don't use the word Nephilim. Goliath is not described as one of the Nephilim. Goliath is simply described as a giant, a large man. So, what we're talking about here with the Nephilim is not simply giants as in large men, in my opinion. What we're talking about here is the offspring of angels with human beings. And this is a particularly unique event in the Bible, but it's not unique in the terminology that's used. Angels are often referred to as sons of God. We see here in Genesis 6, daughters of men. It's a very clear interaction where there is a very distinct difference there. They are making a differentiation between sons of God, daughters of men. These are not the same species that are interacting. Where does that get us? Well, if you look at the rest of history from that point on, all the other religions that we see in the Western world, in the Near East, what do you have? You have godlike beings who have divine powers but are not quite gods themselves. They don't have control, they don't have omnipotence, they just have the ability to manufacture destiny to an extent. They can influence others, they have more supernatural ability than the average person, and they're separate from prophets, they are separate from human beings, they're separate from heroes. We do get instances of demigods, but the key here is that we have a biblical passage in Christianity, in one of the oldest texts in the world, that talks about what are essentially demigods being unleashed onto the earth right before the flood. So, is that where we get the Tuatha De Danann? Is that where we get the Norse gods? Is that where we get the Greek gods? Are we talking about fallen angels? Are we talking about Nephilim? Are we talking about some sort of offspring of humans and the sons of God? Why is this a motif that is consistent throughout all of Western society, all of Western mythology? It cannot, in my opinion, be a coincidence. And I know I sound like the aliens guy right now, but hear me out. So what if, somewhere along the line, these creatures, the ones that left into the other world, or Midgard, or Mount Olympus, this, again, theme, this motif, that the gods, the Nephilim, can disappear into a separate dimension where normal humans cannot go unless they have a specific entry point. Where does that get us other than some sort of cultural genetic memory of something that actually existed, something that actually happened, of a race of beings who had supernatural abilities? The ability to travel between dimensions, the ability to influence events, but who were not omnipotent gods. And what if, somewhere along the line, those beings, either through having offspring of their own or through the isolation that comes with having that much power, created another group of beings, something more sinister, something that survived in the vast untamed reaches of areas like Siberia, the Yukon, the American Great Plains, the Andes Mountains, maybe even places like Australia, although Australia is the devil's playground for a number of other reasons. But that's where this one, the Nephilim, my theory about it, ties back in to what we've been referring to as the flesh pedestrians. What if the reason that we have all of these myths and legends throughout human society, throughout the human race, is that there is something deep and dark hiding in America's caverns, hiding in the forests of Siberia, which was created by some unholy union, and that's why it's something that is superhuman, something that's biologically immortal, something that's not known to breed with humans, it's just created. Maybe what we're seeing with things like the Wendigo, like the Skinwalker, like the Strigoi, like the Coon King, all these various beings that exist out in the forests, out in the caves, away from human society, what if those are the spawn of this Nephilim, this class of beings? And now, those of you in the religious studies community, those of you who are also religious scholars might be saying, but Aidan, God created the flood to wipe out the Nephilim, to wipe out the giants. And those of you in the scientific community might be saying, hey, there was no flood. I'm going to tell you that you're probably both right to an extent, but you're also both wrong. Because what we do have is more and more this mounting evidence of the Younger Dryas period, of a massive glacial melt which occurred 12,000-ish years ago, which would have raised the sea level by hundreds of feet, if not hundreds of meters. And every single society in the Mediterranean region, and to a large extent further off, has a flood story. We all, as a combined cultural entity, have a flood myth. So how likely is it that there wasn't a flood at all? Was it a flood that flooded the entire earth for 40 days and 40 nights and only Noah and his family survived? No, probably not, especially because in the Bible, when Noah and his family get down, there are other humans still alive. But what we do have is a massive glacial melting event. We have Plato saying that 9,000 years before he was writing, the city of Atlantis sank, which just happens to tie in pretty perfectly with the Younger Dryas period. We have two major events in the Bible that are linked, that are one after the other. There are the Nephilim, and then you get the flood, and you get Atlantis sinks and the great flood myths of every single society on Earth. And, maybe I'm getting off on a tangent here. I'm trying to keep everything in one spot, and I guess I'll probably have to do a video on the Younger Dryas and on Plato's theory of Atlantis and all of that. So I'm talking myself into more work as we speak right now. But the point of the matter here is we have the story of the Nephilim. We have the story of the Tuatha De Danann. We have the story of the Norse gods. We have Alex Jones doing DMT and talking about clockwork elves. I don't know if that one's related, but I like to bring it up because what? That's really all I've got for this video. I think we're starting to run a little long. But yeah, I'll cut that off here. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Nephilim. If you disagree with me wholeheartedly, let me know in the comments. If you agree with me wholeheartedly, let me know in the comments. And if you want to keep seeing videos like this, give us a subscribe on YouTube, hit that notification bell, comment for the algorithm, follow me on TikTok at the Aidan Mattis. And if you really, really love us, give us a subscribe on Patreon. We've got $1 through $25 tiers. Anything helps. You can also jump into our Discord that we just launched a couple days ago. That has been popping. I'm trying to control the amount of anime involved, but it's a struggle. So yeah, anyway, I think that covers everything for today. I'm Aidan Mattis, and thanks for stopping by the Lore Lodge.